Hello there, good people. Welcome to the Mythical Ireland Library. I'm Anthony Murphy. This is Live Irish Myths, episode 164. Tonight is the eve of Winter Solstice. Tomorrow is officially the Winter Solstice, December the 21st. Tomorrow is the time when the sun has reached its minimum declination, its lowest ebb, as it were, for those of us in the northern hemisphere. Of those who are watching in the southern hemisphere, celebrating an entirely different event, which is your summer solstice. Here in the northern hemisphere, probably the most celebrated event of the ancient world is the winter solstice illumination of Sheedenbroga or Newgrange. Some of you will have been watching the OPW's live stream this morning. Unfortunately, it was cloudy. The weather forecast is for clouds tomorrow and Wednesday, but hope springs eternal, because you just never know when the sun is going to break through, and hopefully it will break through. 8:45 a.m. is the time for that. If that's Irish time, take 5 hours off that for Eastern time. For New York, that's 3:45 a.m. and take 8 hours for Pacific, so that's 1:45 in the morning. If you're watching either on the Mythical Ireland YouTube channel, please do like the video and subscribe to the channel, or on the Mythical Ireland Facebook page. Those of you on Facebook may wish to share the live stream. If somebody wants to share it onto the Mythical Ireland community and the Mythical Ireland Creatives pages, please do. If you're dropping in, don't forget to say hello in the chat, and we'll say hello back. I hope you like the festive jumper. I did. It was on display the other day. On the festive Yule lights, the green Christmas trees. I think that's partly very Irish because of the green. First of the commenters tonight is Guido Bruce. Hello, Guido. Good evening to you. Happy solstice to you. Jules Cousins is in the house. Greetings of the solstice. Robin Rickman. Happy Yule, and the same back to you. Daisy Peters. Hey, Anthony, let's celebrate the solstice. Absolutely, yes, let's do that. Trina Nierk says hello to everyone. Hello, Trina, good to see you. Jason says hello, everyone. Enjoy the solstice. Thanks indeed. Many happy returns. Madison Morell, live from Ireland. It's Monday night. Absolutely, you're very welcome. Peter Kennedy is in Ballybrigeen, which is Balbriggan in the county of Dublin, just a few miles down the road from us here in the Boyne Valley. As in, we're in the Boyne Valley, he's not. Am I boasting? No, I'm not. Peter is only a short hop, skip, and a jump away. Marianne Dunkinja says that it's cold in Connecticut. It's kind of mild here, but the weather is very grey. You know, it's not raining. Elaine Dent Lingenfelter says, hello, Anthony, from a beautiful but coldish day in Texas. I refuse to believe that it ever gets cold in Texas. Good evening, Elaine. Good afternoon to you. Paul Campbell says 8:45 a.m. Irish time. Yes, indeed. That is the live stream time for tomorrow. There was a break in the clouds later this morning, so hoping. Glad to hear that, Patricia. There was no break in the clouds here at all today. From the beginning of the day to the end of the day, it has been grey for days on end. We are hoping that the sun will make a spectacular appearance at the right moment tomorrow. Roberto Robuero Diaz, Bonadal, Merry Christmas to all of you gathering on here. Yes, indeed. Merry Christmas to you, Roberto. And greetings of the winter solstice. Mandy McCurl is not watching from the Isle of Mull tonight. Mandy McCurl is about 2 miles that way in Leck Farm, Dunor. And some of you will have seen Alison with her wool and her weaving on our creative celebration recently. Well, that's Alison's place, and it's got a tremendous view right beside the river looking up at Newgrange. I mean, you just couldn't get better. Hope you're having a great time, Mandy, and I believe you're at Newgrange today. Hope you enjoyed that. Karen Gogas is in the house. Hello, Karen. Fáilte Goji on Lowerlin, and happy solstice. Lynn Bedry is saying solstice blessings to all from Northern California. Brilliant stuff, Lynn. Good afternoon to you. Alex Casterton is saying good evening. Slánse, well, welcome, Alex. Popped a comment on here and watching on the big screen on YouTube. Oh, God. There's no need to do that. All you see is my face bigger, and that's not nice. You got the lights. Yes, indeed, Marge. Look, watch this. Sorry. Wendy Holmes is in New York, in Hudson Valley. Hello, Wendy. Good afternoon to you. Nick Casterton. Glad to make it tonight. Hope you all have a lovely and safe Christmas. Same all the way back to you, Nick, and all the Castertons. Great to see you in the house. Claudie Renault. Is it Renault? Hello from Limoges, en France. Bonsoir, mon ami. And happy solstice, however you say that, in French. Merritt Braun is in Switzerland. Very good evening to you, Merritt. Nice to see you. Tom Lawler is in County Tipperary. Hello, Tom. Fáilte. Sláinte. Barbara Barney says, hi, Anthony. Hi, everyone. Hello, Barbara. Giaguch. Julie M. I have to go to work in a minute, but I wanted to check in and wish everybody a happy holiday season. Thank you, Julie. Enjoy your work. Happy solstice to you. Lynn Rawlinson is in Southport. Happy solstice. And my birthday. Wow, what an auspicious time to have your birthday. Yes, indeed. I think we can expect many great things of Lynn. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lynn. Happy birthday to you. Kerem, hang on a second. What is ugly about my sweater? I'm making an effort here. That's not nice. It's true. Watching from my university campus while trying to do exams in New Brunswick, Canada. Talk about being distracted. I'll try not to flicker the lights too much. Maybe that will distract you completely from doing your exams. Josephine Meehan is in Donegal. Greetings of the solstice to you, Josephine, in the northwestern part of Ireland, a beautiful part of Ireland. Daisy Peters, our last Mythical Ireland before Christmas. Not unless you're registered for tomorrow evening's talk about Bowen and Newgrange in conjunction with Loud Libraries, which is on Zoom. So we're excitedly looking forward to that. See you tomorrow in Newgrange, tomorrow morning. Happy solstice to all. That's Francis Smith. Yes, indeed, Francis. Looking forward to it. Emer O'Neill is in Middleton in Cork. Solstice blessings to you, Emer. Paul is in Galway City on the west coast, longitude of 9 degrees, 3 minutes west. Not sure what latitude it is, but definitely northern hemisphere. It's about 53.5 degrees north, I think, Paul. Mandy is wishing happy birthday to Lynn. Brilliant stuff. Hilary Jones is in North Wales. Hello and good evening to you. Thank you for joining us. Caroline Beresford even, is in Derbyshire where it's cold and damp. Sounds very wintry, doesn't it? Autumn Rain is in Western New York. Good afternoon to the New Yorkers. Sean Fitzgerald says, hello, Anthony, from an icy Donegal. Is it really that cold? Is it clear there? Because we've just wall-to-wall cloud, you know. Tom King, evening, Anthony and the Mighty to a grand stretch in the evening. Not yet, there isn't. Hope all in good fettle this solstice eve. Enjoy it for its story time. I hope we do, Tom, and I hope that the flame is lit there and you're nice and warm. Anna L says, hello, Anthony and the Mighty to a happy solstice to everyone. Yes, indeed, and to you. Helen Hirsch Chadder is in South Dakota. Wow, brilliant stuff. Helen, always a pleasure to see you. Anne McCallum is in the house, saying hello to everyone. Greetings from a cold but sunny southwest Ontario. Looking forward to today's live stream as always. Always a pleasure to have you along for the journey, Anne. Hope you enjoy yourself. Seamus Marr is in Newry, north of Ireland, calling. My birthday tomorrow, 47. Seamus, a very happy birthday to you. What a significant day. We have a couple of solstice babies in the house. A very, very happy birthday to you. Haven't seen you in a while. Hope you are keeping well. Barbara Murphy, trying to listen from off the grid down in my derelict house in Patagonia, Arizona. Wow. Ooh, off the grid. Brilliant. Sounds nice, Barbara. I hope you've candles lit. Oh, wait. It's still daytime there, isn't it? And it's probably hot. Mariana Dunn is in Virginia and is saying hello. Banachti, Mariana. Solstice blessings from Illinois from Susan Bain Williams. Susan, it's very nice to see you. Janelle Sauceda is in Washington. It's grey here, but the fog that settled over my land is breathtaking. Well, it's grey here without the fog, and maybe we shouldn't complain too much. Shannon is saying Hup Solstice from Dura, which, as many of you know, is Derry, in the very north of the island. Steve Dickinson says, we agree. Alex likes my jumper and my lights. Feeling blessed, says Mandy. Yes, indeed, to be able to spend that time in the evening looking out across the Boyne at Newgrange. Brilliant stuff. Erica Bow, good afternoon to all. Hello, Erica. Greetings of the solstice to you. Great to see you. Laura Jean Larson is in Hot Springs, Arkansas. I was going to say Arkansas. Kansas and Arkansas. Never mind. Anyway, a very happy solstice to you. Elaine says she got booted. Don't be mean to me. I think that might be just a slight technologigypsy hitch, Elaine. We certainly wouldn't be mean to you. You're very welcome. Tarini Pendleton is in Laguna Beach, California. Hello, Tarini. Very good afternoon to you. Astro Gypsy is also in the house. Happy solstice all. Lynn is saying thank you. Sandrine Brady, bonsoir, Anthony and Super 2. I'm so glad to be with you tonight. Happy winter solstice. Merry Christmas. Joyeux Noël. Watching you on my TV screen. Brilliant. No pressure, eh? Kathy Mark is in Iowa. Hello, Kathy. A very good afternoon to you. Welcome along. Monica Regley is saying happy solstice to everyone and many happy returns, Monica. I hope it's a great season for you. Helen says, is it too late to register? I'm not sure, and I can't post. Can I? Can't post it. Why not, Anthony? Why could you not post the link right now? Just have a look here to see if I can indeed. So I'll share the link, and what you want to do is click on the one that says there's a list of events. Click on the one that says Winter Solstice in the Boyne Valley with Mythical Ireland. So I'm going to share that. This is the link to tomorrow evening's talk, which is on Zoom, and that is in conjunction with Louth Library Service. You'll remember I did a talk for them on summer solstice, and I also did Ireland Reads with them as an Ireland Reads ambassador. So I'm just going to post that here on Facebook and then on the YouTube. Some of you might know that as YouTube. Pardon me, you might hear my voice here for a moment because I have to play the video to get the comments to come up. Yeah, there you go. Okay, shut him up because he's boring. And paste. There you go. So hopefully you can still register. There's pretty much no limit on the numbers now. There's about 200 people registered for the talk. I'm glad to report. And I'm going to shut off Facebook, and I'll talk to you later. Porrick. Olive Madden is in Dunor. Hello, Olive. Only out the road. There's a couple of you watching from Dunor this evening, and of course I'm on Dunor Road. So there you go. Happy solstice. Joan McHugh is in the house from Duncrunthan. You and I know that has been Ether. No, we don't. We know it as Howth in County Dublin. Joan, it's a great pleasure to see a happy solstice to you. Robin Edgar is in Canada. For me, the winter solstice is spread over 3 to 5 days. It is, after all, the winter standstill of the sun, and we will talk about that. Yes, indeed. Shannon Donoghue is in Alaska. A very good morning, I think. Morning to you, Shannon. Lovely for you to join us from that part of the world. I hope there's plenty of snow on the ground. Stephen O'Hara says, happy solstice. Managed to get this far. Roll on the longer days. Yes, indeed, Stephen. Welcome along. Federica Guy is in the house. Happy solstice to everyone. Greetings from Italy. Hello, Federica. Christina is also saying happy solstice and a very happy solstice season to you. Tracy is saying it's Mizzlin Mist in Scotland. Solstice greetings, everyone. Yes, indeed, Tracy. You're very welcome. Many happy returns. Is it Ife Wilder? A blessed solstice, Akara. Sorry, Ife. Thank you for helping me with the pronunciation. From Kansas City, Missouri. The Irish pronounce my name Aoife, and I love it. Missing my heart home of Belfast. Brilliant stuff, Aoife. I'll call you Aoife if that's all right. I like that. Brilliant stuff. Sean Fitzgerald says clear here but icy. Wow. Heard you on the radio this morning, Anthony. It was great. Yes, indeed. What a pleasure to be talking about solstice at Newgrange on the radio. Bernardine is in Maine. Hello, Bernardine. Very good afternoon to you. Cleana is saying that her son's birthday is today and he's in Vietnam. Wow. Happy solstice to everyone from Belmont in Burr, County Offaly. Thank you. Cleana, you're very welcome, and happy birthday to your son and happy solstice to all of you. Gary is in South Dublin and saying Banachty, a very happy solstice to you, Gary. Salve, which I believe I was pronouncing wrong. It's Salve, not Salve. Banachty on Grienstad o Lár Hiron. And Salve is in the middle of the county of Tyrone. Bernardine is in Maine, but formerly from Newry in the county of Down, isn't it? Yes, in Northern Ireland, which is on Ur, the yew tree, which is where Newry gets its lovely name from. Benny Enail, one of the Enail kings, perhaps, says hello from Armagh. Hello, Benny. Benny, you're very welcome. Stacey Hall, pardon me, is in Alabama. A very good winter solstice evening to you, Stacey. Greetings of the season. Patricia Wardell. Hello, Patricia. You're very welcome along. Jacqueline Adams Tully is in Washington State. Hello, Jacqueline. And yes, it's been a couple of months since I saw you. I hope that you are keeping well. Nuala Doyle is in the house. Hello, Nuala. You're very welcome along. Patricia Loughran McTague is also in Illinois. You're very welcome, Patricia. Happy solstice to you. Eileen Adams is in Hastings in the UK. Eric Liddell, happy soldier. Happy solstice also, Eric. You're very welcome. Gillian Stapleton is greeting everybody a happy solstice. Many happy returns. Eric Liddell, happy solstice from Ontario. Another viewer from Ontario. Brilliant stuff. Happy solstice. Lillian Cruz is saying happy solstice and Yule to everyone. Indeed, of course, don't forget, it's Christmas week also. Who am I missing? Janet Moran, hello. Janet, how are you? Jody, hello. Are the gates closed in the morning or just the chamber? I think it's just the chamber. I thought nobody was allowed in the gates. I didn't realize they were letting people in, so it's great. Emer Stassen in Scotland. Love the festive necklace. Yes, do you like it? Hello, Emer. Happy solstice to you. Happy Day is saying hello from North Dublin. Well, if every day is a happy day for you, brilliant. Because there are just not enough people having a happy day in the world. Kathleen Glassley is in California. A very good afternoon to you, Kathleen. Thank you for joining us on tonight's live stream. Susan Scott says happy winter solstice to all. Many, many happy returns to you. Maria is saying late Zoom and had to finish my art group as every Monday evening. It's grand. Sure, look, we haven't started. From a really cold Koblenz in Germany. Maria, what is it? Guten Abend? Is it Guten Tag? Guten Abend? You're very welcome. The Curious Celt is extending the brightest solstice greetings to all the two. Thank you very much and many happy returns to you. Paula Bernard, is it Daffyd, saying happy winter solstice? Yes, indeed. A very happy solstice to you. Pilar is in Massachusetts. A sleepy hello. I'm hoping for no clouds in the morning. You and half the population of the planet. Adina Sparks is in warm and sunny New Mexico. Spread it around. Send us some of that sunshine, Adina. Please do. Murgirl is saying happy solstice from Montana. Brilliant stuff. The mountain state, way out west. Glad that you could join us. Good afternoon to you. Lucia Ruan is in Kilkenny. Happy solstice and Christmas to you, Lucia. Gaelic Elvis is, yes. Apparently, I've just been told by Porrick, who was messaging me there, that the reason that the car park for Sliabh was closed was to do with tree felling that's taking place up the mountain. So a few people were disappointed not to be able to make the hike up to the cairn to see the winter solstice sunset today. Cazador saying warm festive wishes from the London Irish sky. Brilliant stuff, Cazador. We wish you all the best of the solstice season. Peter Kennedy, I was there earlier. We could walk around the monument, but the chamber was closed. Yes, indeed. Well, it's great that you can at least get close to the monument. Movanway is in Gloucestershire, but the Heart's still in Wales. Had a few technical difficulties on my end. Finally got in. Happy solstice, everyone. You're very welcome, Movanway. Brendan Byrne is delighted to join us from Glendalough. We're always joyful to have you in our company, Brendan. And that is the greetings. So, I mean, where do you start? Fantastic stuff. What are we on? Nearly 20 minutes. Goodness me. Has it taken that long just to say hello to people? You're all very welcome. This evening is just about celebrating. There was no sort of specific plan. I am going to do some readings. But before I do that, let's just talk solstice, shall we, for a minute? Irish technical thinker. Unfortunately, my sister has been brought into hospital tonight to give a premature birth due to health complications. Asking all if you could say a little prayer. Baby was 1 pound 3 ounces. Yes, indeed, Marcus. We will indeed say a special intention for your sister and the wee baby, and hope that everything's going to be all right. You're in our hearts and thoughts right now, as all of you are, and hopefully things will work out just fine. So, solstice, yeah, I mean, so let's get the technical definition out of the way. First of all, solstice, according to modern, thank you, her name is Sarah Grace. Well, we wish Sarah Grace all the very best, and I'm sure our collective thoughts and intentions will certainly help. Um, yeah, solstice. I mean, the technical definition, the scientific astronomical definition of solstice is the moment of the sun's minimum declination. Desiree Riley is in the house. I missed the Zoom episode last week. One of the neighbour's horses passed away, and we had to help bury him. Oh, but I'm so sad. I'm so happy to be here with everyone today. We are glad to have you along, also. Yes, always a delight to see Desiree in the house. Elizabeth is in Vienna. Hello, Elizabeth. Happy winter solstice to you. But what does that actually mean? What is declination? So, if you think about on Earth, Paul Campbell was talking about latitude and longitude there a moment ago. Latitude, are those lines that mark how far north or south of the equator you are. Longitude, how far east or west of the Greenwich meridian you are. So if you think that there's an equivalent grid in the sky, they're actually two separate grids. Let's not confuse things. So we map out the sky in terms of declination and right ascension. And so if you think of declination as being the equivalent, those lines, or they're actually hoops because they form a complete circle in the sky. Another definition of solstice. So yeah, basically the sun is reaching its minimum declination. When it reaches its maximum declination, that gives us summer solstice in the northern hemisphere. And when it's crossing the celestial equator, that gives us the equinoxes. When it's crossing its way across the celestial equator on its way north, that's the vernal equinox. And on its way south, that's the autumnal equinox. For northern hemisphere, of course, everything is reversed for the southern hemisphere, because right now our good friends in Australia and New Zealand and in South Africa and South America, etc., are preparing to celebrate the longest day of the year tomorrow, summer solstice. And of course, they have their Christmas turkey on the beach. A strange one, I know. We're lighting up, and it's all really dark and cold at this time of year especially in northern parts of Europe and Canada and the States. So another definition is when the sun is over the Tropic of Capricorn, and of course the two tropics mark the places, the lines, the hoops, as it were, on the Earth, the latitudes, sorry, at which in the case of the Tropic of Capricorn, that if you happen to live exactly on the Tropic of Capricorn, then tomorrow the sun will be directly overhead and will rise in the east and set in the west. And conversely, if you live on the Tropic of Cancer, which is north of the equator, on the summer solstice, the sun will be directly overhead and rise and set east and west. Yes, indeed. And I hope, as I say, that our thoughts and prayers and intentions for your sister and the wee baby are in some way helpful, Marcus. Gary is in northern Scotland saying hello. Hello, Gary. Giant Oak is saying happy solstice. Yes, indeed. Happy solstice to everyone. In real terms, the definition of solstice to a Neolithic astronomer or Neolithic astronomer farmer I think is far more helpful, because the sun is basically, if you watch where the sun rises and sets every day, you'll see that it moves. As the year grows from winter to summer, the sun's position changes from the southeast to east to northeast, and its setting position changes from southwest to east to northwest. Sorry, to west to northwest. And conversely, after the summer turns towards autumn and winter, the sun starts retreating back down the horizon again. Solstice is from the Latin solstice, which means standing still sun. In Irish, we call the solstice Grienstad, which literally means stopped sun. And these are the days upon which the sun's movement on the horizon appears to stop for several days in a row. 3 days where the human eye cannot detect any change in the azimuth. That is, azimuth is the position on the horizon measured in degrees from north. So the azimuth of the winter solstice sunrise is approximately 130 to 133 degrees, depending on your, or 135 degrees, depending on your local horizon. So north is 0 degrees, east is 90, south is 180, and west is 270. So your sun will rise approximately 130 degrees and will set at approximately 200 and 220, there or thereabouts. And that, of course, those reference points change with latitude. So the further north you go, at the latitude of Edinburgh, there's a right angle between the summer solstice sunrise and winter solstice sunrise, and conversely also the sunsets. And the closer to the equator you go, the closer together those angles are. So they stretch out as you go north. And of course, Margaret Kiernan is in the house. Hello, Margaret. You're very welcome. Laura Puente is here from Chicago. Hello, Laura. Happy winter solstice to you all. Ruth Graham, happy solstice to you. Yeah, so when you go as far as, say, you're just on the rim of the Arctic Circle, well, at winter solstice, the sun, if you're exactly on the circle, it just appears briefly on the horizon. If you go further into the Arctic Circle, further north, the sun doesn't rise at all. However, conversely, in the summertime, the sun doesn't set. So you get these eternal days in the summertime. And so I think that one of the many reasons that monuments like Newgrange were built was because the farming communities of northwestern Europe were only acutely aware of the major change in the sun's position and the consequent change in the length of the day and the consequential effects on the natural world, on migratory patterns, on growth and death of the landscape. Of course, at this time of year, a lot of the landscape is barren. Of course, since the introduction of crop husbandry and farming in general by the people who built, the people who built the monuments in the Neolithic, arriving around 6,000 years ago, 4,000 BC, we now see that we have a certain number of winter crops, winter wheat and winter barley in particular, that are planted, a couple of months ago, and that are actually already green in the ground at this time, when a lot of the rest of the landscape appears to be quite well, it never dies. I mean, Ireland's always lush, we're always green. Even the only time Ireland's not green is when we get a big snowfall and then it's white, and it's only because you can't see the green, and we're very lucky from that point of view. We're very lucky to have such a lush and productive landscape, which is, I believe, one of the reasons that the farmers came here in the first place, but one of the reasons, I've been saying it lately on my tours, that one of the reasons the monuments of Brunabonia are bigger than any of the other Stone Age monuments of Ireland is because they're located in the best land in Ireland. So the farmers were clearly celebrating the fecundity, the fertility, the abundance of the land, which is brilliant. Why did they do it? Well, there are multiple reasons, and we can only speculate in terms of many of them, but clearly there's an imperative where they're marking the fixed points of the year, and the only two fixed points of the year, in terms of the sun's movement, the only fixed points of the year are the solstices. The equinoxes are a much more difficult thing. The solstice it's a visual thing. You can see when the sun has reached a standstill, and you can see when it has turned back again, which is wonderful. Looking forward, by the way, in the winter issue of Archaeology Ireland magazine, which I haven't seen yet, I am subscribed and waiting for it to arrive, is the results, or the initial results of last year's survey carried out by Dr. Frank Prendergast and in conjunction with Claire Tuffy and others at Newgrange, in which they were studying when does the sun actually first appear in the chamber of Newgrange? How long before and after the solstice? So really looking forward to seeing the results of that survey. Maybe Frank will reveal some of that detail in the live streams tomorrow and the next day, because Dr. Prendergast is taking part in the live streams with Claire Tuffy, who is the manager of the visitor centre at Brunabonia. So hopefully Frank will share some of that with us. If not, don't forget to subscribe to Archaeology Ireland magazine yourself and try to find out. It is clear that such lavish and gigantic and ostentatious monuments were built for some purpose. The idea that they were merely tombs doesn't hold much weight with a lot of people. However, it is clear that that was a definite part of their function, because many Irish passage tombs were found with burials in them. And for anybody who used to say, well, how many of those have been dated? Well, we now know that one of the people buried in Newgrange, NG10, as it were, well, his remains were carbon dated as well as genome sequenced for the paper in Nature last year. And they were conclusively dated to the time when archaeologists believe the monument was built, which is around 5,200 years ago, approximately. And it's always a case of these things are not precise down to 1 year or a decade. It's probably give or take a century. Terry Lynn Zacharias is in Colorado. You're very welcome. Happy solstice to you. Royal Hill of Tara Ranger, whose Paul is in the house as well. Happy solstice. And also, who else did I see? Cy B, who's in Limerick. Heidi Hi from Limerick. Heidi Hi. Hody ho. Hody ho from Louth. Anyway, so Newgrange continues to impress, because after the excavations and some restoration, righting of the stones, putting them back in the positions they were in originally, the sun began to shine in there again in 1967, when Professor O'Kelly became the first human in the modern era to witness the spectacle. And a lot of people have followed suit. Usually it's a lottery, and 35,000 people enter the lottery for 50 spaces. That's 10 places on each of the 5 mornings. And sometimes, people win and they go and it's cloudy, and that's tough, However, with the pandemic, the chamber has been closed since March of 2020 to public access, but the live stream has provided an opportunity for us to see what happens. Now, I'm lucky. I've been in there on the solstice in 2010, and I've seen what happens. But for those of you who haven't seen it, it's a wonderful opportunity to see it. Naomi is in Portland. Hello, Naomi. A very good afternoon to you. You're very welcome. Happy solstice. Lynn Rawlinson, well, yes, exactly. I mean, that's something that a lot of scholars have speculated on, that the remains are put in the tomb for the purpose of rebirth with the return of the sun, and that's kind of borne out in the mythology of the place. So one of the things that I wanted to do tonight, one of the things that I wanted to read was from my Mythical Ireland book, the new edition, recently published, the revised and expanded edition of Mythical Ireland. But I should say that tomorrow as well, in the Bowen talk, we're going to be investigating a little bit about the sun god, and the role of mythology in trying to decipher Newgrange. Of course, it's fraught with danger, because we don't know, while we do know when the myths were written down in the Middle Ages by Christian monks, we don't know when they were first told. And the idea that they go all the way back into prehistory, well, it's a difficult one to prove. In fact, it's an impossible one to prove, but one can speculate, and one can try and build sort of what we might call a case based on circumstantial evidence, But I'm fascinated by the mythology of Newgrange that talks about an overthrowing of the sun deity. In some cases, that's Dagda. In some cases, that's Elkmar. And Angus is always the victor, and he always wins over. Sometimes that's on the advice of Midger. Sometimes, in the case of Tuckmark Etain, it's on the advice of Dagda that he overthrows and tosses out Elkmar. In Altron Chiagov Athar, the fosterage of the House of the Two Drinking Vessels. It is Manannán who is the one who is advising, and it is Elkmar who has to abscond. Dagda, of course, retreats. It doesn't say that specifically in the story. It says that he goes to a place called Achel. Is it Aachen, which means lamenting or moaning or crying. And we now believe that the place where he went to was Mound B, which is also known as the Dagda's Mound. So he had another mound to go to after Aengus took over Newgrange. And really the symbolism of the mythology, we think, is that the sun, the vibrant new sun, is taking over from the dying old sun. You know, that's really what the myth represents. Of course, some of the myths pertain to control of time, in particular in the Dinshanicus, where we find that Dagda sends Elkmar away because Elkmar is married to Bowen, or in some versions of the story, he's her brother, which is fascinating. Please do remember to tune in to tomorrow's night's talk about Bowen, because I will be saying something very specific about that. And Elkmar thinks he's only going away for a day, but in fact, through the mystical control of time, using magic and incantation spells, Dagda's a bit of a witch. He's actually being sent away for 9 months, which of course is enough time for the Dagda to lie with Bowen and for them to conceive and bear Aengus. But as soon as Aengus is born, Elkmar returns and they abandon the child and flee the place for fear of Elkmar, which is a funny one because Dagda is the chief of the deities. How could he possibly be afraid of Elkmar? I beg you, please tell me, why would the chief of the gods be afraid of a lesser deity? But that's the way the story goes. Midger then picks the boy up and brings him to Brelay in the Midlands, in Longford, Arda Hill, where he is fostered for 9 years before he returns. And according to Tuthmark Etain, his return occurs at Samhain. And that's another fascinating thing about the mythology of Newgrange. This is something I must write about more specifically. I've only written about it generally, but apart from the magic spell that Dagda and Bowen cast on the sun in the Dinshanicus, it is said that when Dagda entered the house of Elkmar, aka Newgrange, in order to lie with Bowen, so what you're seeing here is, in metaphoric, symbolic language, is the interpenetration of sky and earth. You're seeing the mating of heaven and earth, the mating of the solar sun god with the womb, the earth mother, and of course the swollen womb of Newgrange, the passage womb, representing the potential fecundity of the earth. Well, when they do that, they cast a spell on the sun to make it stand still in the sky. And that right there in the Dinshanicus is a description of the winter solstice illumination of Newgrange, I believe. I have an article about that on my website, on the blog. I also wrote a chapter for a book about the Dagda. What is it called? Club Cauldron. Oh, I can never remember the name. It is called Harp Club and Cauldron, yes. In which I said exactly the same thing, that there absolutely, in my mind, is a myth that talks about winter solstice. However, a lot of the action that takes place at Newgrange in the myths, and indeed in a lot of myths, relates to Samhain. And Samhain is not winter solstice. Samhain is the beginning of winter time. Samhain is, the cross quarter day marking the beginning of winter. I'm only imagining that Samhain was seen as a season that stretched from the date that we celebrate at the beginning in early November, the old cross quarter date, lasting into the solstice. So, for instance, a couple of days ago, on the 18th, 2 days ago, Mythical Ireland patrons have been treated to a new podcast about it. And by the way, if you want to become a patron, it's patreon.com/Mythical Ireland. That's what that address is there at the bottom of the screen. Mythical Ireland patrons were treated to a podcast about my trip to Trim to see some of the salmon spawning in the upper reaches of the Boyne River, something which is fascinating. It is a coincidence, and a fascinating coincidence, that the salmon spawn in the upper reaches of the Boyne River in conjunction with winter solstice, in conjunction with the shortest days of the year. It's fascinating. Now, did the builders of Newgrange know that? I find it hard to believe that they wouldn't have known something of the movements of the migratory fish. They knew, I think, intimately the migratory arrivals and departures of the whooper swans into the Boyne Valley. Hillary's sake, so no need to panic. But I think you may have gotten entangled with your tree. Yes, indeed. Desiree is saying the 18th was her birthday. Wow, a lot of sort of solstice week birthdays. Happy birthday to you, Desiree. I hope you had a great one. Where was I? Yeah, the salmon. And it was Robert Hensey, the archaeologist, writing in his book, Origins, First Light, the origins of, what's it called? First Light, the origins of Newgrange, I'm pretty sure it's called. Sorry, Robert, I apologize. Robert is going to be a guest on one of our conversation episodes. But he was the first one to point out that the winter spawning run coincides with that great celebration at Newgrange. And in fact, the winter spawning run kind of begins at Samhain and probably ends by the time Imbolc comes around. It's all done and dusted. And those male salmon that have survived and are able to go back to sea, go back. I think are they the kelps or the kelts? Kelts or Kelps, can't remember which. Someone will help me. A lot of them die in the spawning. So the female creates what's called a red, or EDD, which is a Scottish word apparently for making something ready or clearing out something. She swooshes her tail and loosens the gravel. She lays the eggs, and the male squirts his milt, his sperm, and the female then swishes her tail again and buries the eggs under between 10 and 30 centimeters, or 4 to 12 inches of gravel. And they stay there for a couple of years until the smolt develops the biological system which enables it to handle salt water. So they're there for 2 years, at least, sometimes up to 4 years, before they ever hear the call of the ocean, which is a major theme of my book, Return to Segish. Yes, Atlantic salmon, thank you, Gary. I knew someone would be able to help, that have released all their eggs and sperm are called kelts. These attempt to return to the ocean to breed again. Yes, indeed. Brilliant. Thank you for that. Saibi, I'm not sure that's right. Atlantic salmon don't die. I was in the presence of a couple of salmon anglers who know their stuff, and they were telling me that quite a lot of them do die, especially the males. And the male one of the males that I saw was affected with some sort of white fungus. You know, Mark Gordon's in the house. Hello, Mark. I think Mark is in Iowa. Mark, a very good afternoon to you. Happy solstice. Mark Munoz is also with us. Mark, happy solstice to you. Anyway, I hope that has whetted your appetite. I'm going to read a few things, if you don't mind, if you're not too bored, and if you're up for it. I'm going to propose to read a chapter from Mythical Ireland, which pertains to Newgrange and the aforementioned Elkmar. I'm going to read an excerpt pertaining again to Newgrange from my novel, The Cry of the Sebok, and I'm also going to read a section, one that I haven't read before. Eventually, over time, you'll be able to have the whole of Return to Segish available to you in various snippets, but I should definitely follow the advice of loads of my followers and friends who keep saying, why don't you do an audiobook? It would be lovely. So let's get to it then, shall we? Okay, so some Atlantic salmon die after spawning, but many go on to spawn again. Pacific salmon only spawn once and then die. Wow. I think it's the most incredible thing. You know? Michael Trott is saying good morning from summer solstice in New Zealand. A great greeting of the solstice to our friends in Aotearoa. How wonderful, because I was talking about it early on in the live stream, about how if you're in the southern hemisphere, hang on till I just fix my lights. If you're in the southern hemisphere, you're celebrating summer solstice. Brilliant stuff. So anyway, wonderful stuff. This chapter is called Rekindling the Powerful Image of the Druid Elkmar. I hope you enjoy it. And good to see so much chat going on. Everybody seems to be enjoying themselves, which is always a delight. You know, yeah, imagine that we're into pretty much the shortest day, or in Michael's case, the longest day. But you know what they say, Michael, it's all downhill from here, whereas here, In the Northern Hemisphere, we look forward to longer days, fingers crossed. Some of the oldest tales about Newgrange were written down in the Old Irish period, which is a funny thing to say because there is no. Scholars don't really recognize an Old Irish period. It's the period in which Old Irish was spoken and written. There is, of course, no easy way to tell when these stories first originated, but there are scholars who believe that it is possible that some of them have their origins in the Neolithic, when the great monuments of the Bend of the Boyne were built. Hang on, I just remembered I have to find the notes because I may need to refer to the footnotes. I do apologise for this brief interruption to your broadcast. Yeah, so this first quote is from the work of John Carey, who's a brilliant scholar, another person I would really love to have on a conversation episode. In the case of Newgrange, we must therefore suppose not only that there was some cultural link between its builders and the first speakers of Gaelic in Ireland, but that this link exercised a formative influence on the belief system of the latter. Again, the survival of some versions of these ancient doctrines in the medieval literature indicates that the worldview of the Irish remained, at least in certain respects, astonishingly stable throughout the intervening centuries. The Boyne legends were still relevant and important in the Christian period. Geraldine Rogers is in South Armagh. Hello, Geraldine. Sorry, wrong comment. Hello, Geraldine. You're very welcome. Gordon Farrell is in Longford. Hello, Gordon. We mentioned Longford a few moments ago. We were talking to Arda Hill, where Midger fostered Angus in the first 9 years of his life. Gordon, great to see you, and great to see you creating your wonderful artwork. I hope you're a member of the Mythical Ireland Creatives on Facebook. If you're not, do join and show off your work. Vicky Wallace Southall is in the house. Sorry I'm late. That's perfectly okay. Hello to Evan and Chili if they're there as well. A very special solstice wave to you all. The ancient stories of Newgrange include the Gawal in Shida, the taking of the Otherworld Mound, Tuchmark Etain, the wooing of Etain, and Altron Chia Ga Vadar, the fosterage of the house of the two vessels, or the two methers, or the two drinking vessels. In the Gawal in Shida, it is Dagda, the chief of the gods, who owns Newgrange, and is tricked out of it by his son Angus, known as the Mock Og. In the latter two texts, it is Elkmar, the husband, or brother, of Angus's mother Bowen, who owns the she. In Tuchmark Etain, there is an incredibly powerful image of Elkmar standing on Newgrange at Samhain in druidic garb and carrying in his hand a mysterious but potent symbol, a fork of white hazel. It is Samhain, that very special time of the year, at the threshold of winter, a time when, quote, the dead might reach out to the living, unquote. Elkmar has evidently arrived into the ownership of Sheedenbroga through his power as a druid and a poet and a diviner. The vision is an extraordinary one, filled with druidic symbolism and divine energy. Here is the magician of Brunabonia, the one who occupies a privileged position as the wise elder of his community. In this guise, we see Elkmar as the prehistoric cult leader, the chief priest of the tribe, the commander, perhaps, of the community that built the great monument. And we might even venture to suggest its chief astronomer. Gallo Joe Brannagon is in the house. Hello there. Kevon is saying something about Dahio Hogan. Sounds fascinating. Brilliant. And Rachel's is it Rachel's land in Kentucky? Hello, good afternoon to you. Happy solstice. Where was I? Yes. As the supposed original owner of Sheedenbroga, it is clear that Elkmar held a privileged position in our ancient stories. Some accounts hold that the original inhabitants of Newgrange were Bowen and her spouse Nuadu Nechtan. Yes, the two names are sometimes combined. Otherwise known as Elkmar. Or Elkvar, apparently is how you pronounce it because of the lenition on the M. This name, Elkvar, translates as the envious one, quite possibly because of the extramarital wanderings of his wife Boan, or Bowen, with the Dagda, and yet spellbound under the considerable magical abilities of this interlocutor. The spellbound Elkmar was said to have known nothing of their union, even though they produced the child Angus Og in his absence, which they concealed from him. Another chapter that has been added in the new edition of the book is the one from which I read a small, very short portion of last week, which is the chapter about Dua Tresk, which is an obscure name for Newgrange given in the Dinchanicus, which relates to the whole theme of the overthrowing of one god by another at Newgrange. I think you'll find that interesting. Certainly hope you do. Perhaps the envy was wrought by Angus Og, who managed to trick Elkmar out of the ownership of Newgrange using little more than wit and ancient Ireland's version of a clever legal argument. The most striking symbol of I'll just stick to Elkmar, I think. The most striking symbol of Elkmar's presence at Sheedenbroga is undoubtedly the fork of white hazel, and Gordon is saying he just joined the Mythical Ireland Creatives. Brilliant stuff. We'll make sure to let you in. That's the other thing. You have the passport because you're from the right part of the country, The most striking symbol of Elkmar's presence at Sheedenbroga is undoubtedly the fork of white hazel. The hazel tree was revered in ancient Ireland for a number of reasons. It was said to have grown near water, and indeed the wood of the hazel was the primary tool of the diviner. But it was also said to have had mystical powers of protection and could ward off snakes, among other evils. Not that that was any use in Ireland, because apparently we never had snakes. Hazel trees are said to have grown over sacred wells, which were the source of Ireland's great rivers, the Boyne and the Shannon. The hazel nut is associated with wisdom. That's the Cno, another major theme of Return to Segish. Not necessarily wisdom of sciences, but perhaps a more esoteric perception, which included inspiration and the knowledge of poetry. It was the sacred hazel nuts of wisdom that eventually gave Fionn his great insights, gained from the salmon of knowledge. In our tradition, it is said that the salmon gains its knowledge from the nuts of the hazel that drop into the sacred well. That is, of course, Segish or Trinity Well, Nectan's Well. Every spot on the salmon's back represents each nut that the fish has consumed. Elkmar didn't need a weapon. He had a fork of hazel, and hazel was noted for its power of protection against malevolence. It gave protection against evil spirits and even snakes. And of course, this was a time of amity between humans, according to Dagda when he was advising Angus to go to Sheedenbroga and to confront Elkmar, because there were no weapons at this time. It was a time when people tried to get on with each other. We come to a question about Elkmar, a quandary that must be explored to better ascertain his influence, if there should be any, upon the modern interpretation of Sheedenbroga. Or you might say she and Vroa, in sort of more modern pronunciation. The place the Cistercians first called the Newgrange. The question is this: was Elkmar a scientist or a mystic? Was his rod of hazel a scientific instrument or a holy implement? Was it, perhaps, both? The modern-day rod-bearers are the archaeologists who come, by and large, to the Brew by the Boyne with little care for the fairy tales and fireside stories of old. Their rods are utilitarian, functional, and prosaic. They are the yardsticks used to measure height, width, and depth of archaeological features. They appear in photographs to show scale. There is no Elkmar here holding court in the Shee, no Angus Og to bewitch him with cunning. There is only the material evidence, the one thing so treasured by the archaeologist. During the excavation of Newgrange, Professor Michael O'Kelly decided that a spring of water that emerged from between two orthostats in the passage should be piped underground. It wouldn't be acceptable for tourists to Newgrange to get their feet wet in the process of visiting the monument. But how do we know the spring was not an essential element of the monument's design? Was Newgrange built upon that spring for sacred and ritual purposes? Is that why Elkmar held a dowsing rod of hazel in his hand? One can imagine. I mean, you go into a church, there's immediately on your right and left are the holy water fonts, and you place your hand in the holy water font and you bless yourself. Is it not something similar that there's a spring of fresh water emerging from between the stones near the entrance of Newgrange, that if you don't put your hand in and do some sort of blessing, that you walk barefoot through and encounter a similar sort of blessing? The trouble with archaeologists, the late Boyne Valley folklorist Ban Icharbre would say, is that they have no imagination. The trouble with archaeologists, the ever-living Elkmar might say, is that they do not possess the art of divination. Lacking a divining rod, or eschewing it completely, not chewing it, Anthony, eschewing it completely, the archaeologist has come to Newgrange only with a spade to dig, a greater weapon than anyone possessed on that Samhain day when Aengus Og came to Brunebonia to challenge Elkvar. Heed not the stories of fairies and otherworldly folk, the archaeologist might say. Bring the spades, the trowels, and yardsticks, and we shall dig it up, measure it, and know its secrets. Are its secrets yet revealed? Ironically, there is one similarity between the measuring instruments of the archaeologists and the white fork of hazel brandished by Alkmaar. Both are ground-penetrating implements used to reveal things that are hidden. Alkmaar divines for water, among other things. The archaeologist divines for features using resistivity and gradiometry and a battery of other techniques. Here it seems the similarities between the archaeologists and the archetypal magician of Newgrange end. The diviner lives beyond the confines of rationality, analysis, and conformance to dogma. He inhabits mystical realms. Newgrange is a tomb, a dead thing, the archaeologists declare. Sheedenbroga is a living thing, and the spirits of the ancestors come hither from the land of promise to remind us of its true purpose, cries out Alkmaar in retort. The fork of white hazel is the symbol that is all too often missing from the modern interpretation of Newgrange. Today it is called a tomb. It has become a dead thing. The image of Alkmaar standing on the mound in all his power reminds us that the creative and intuitive side of our nature must not give way to the deadening image of the archaeologist's measuring rod. Yes, the archaeological interpretation of Newgrange is hugely important, and we are extremely grateful for all the light that they have shed on these wonderful ancient places. But they do not hold a premium on the interpretation of these sites. In ancient times, the poet held almost equal court in terms of status with the king. Today, we should allow the Druid Alkmaar to hold equal standing with the archaeologist. This means accepting that Newgrange has a power beyond that which can be measured with a red and white pole. This means empowering aspects of ourselves that are hidden in the darkness of the She, and shining that solstice light into the darkness to awaken something latent in us. We must allow our Alkmaar nature to stand on the She at Samhain. Without that inculcation, that instilling of the wisdom from within, Sheedenbroga loses its power and becomes just the Newgrange, that heap of stones that once was a tomb but now is an empty vessel. The real danger in depriving ourselves of our Alkmaar image is that everything thus follows the same path. Everything becomes inanimate and materialistic, and our view becomes perhaps even nihilistic. Why are we here at all? Our Alkmaar image allows us to stand in the power of our presence in all that it encompasses, scientific and spiritual, awesome and terrible, and to engage fully with the journey of life. Thus, the childlike initiate becomes the supreme poet of the Boyne, the one who has tasted the salmon of knowledge. To the rationalist, the monument is called Newgrange, and it is a pile of stones from the past, the corpse of something it once was. To the poet, the monument is called Sheedenbroga, and it is a crystal bower, a place where the sun eternally shines. And that, my dear folk, is chapter 6.7, rekindling the powerful image of the Druid Alkmaar from Mythical Ireland, revised and expanded edition. That self-same chapter is in the original edition if you happen to have it. No need to necessarily buy the expanded edition for that one. Yeah, Robin thinks that it's almost inconceivable that it was an accident, that there was a spring in the passage of Newgrange. I'm not telling any fibs. It's in O'Kelly's book. And they culverted the stream underground. And the stream, yes, Mark, was on it, like, because the monument is on a slope. What would have happened is that the water would have emerged, and the water would have trickled downwards towards the entrance and out the entrance of the monument. Yeah. Okay, so a little bit more on the imaginative side now. Well, not that that wasn't imaginative, but that was obviously sort of crossing over between scholarly work and poetic work. I'm going to read a section of chapter 9 from The Cry of the Sebach, or The Cry of the Shawach, which is one of my works of fiction, my short novel. This chapter is chapter 9. It's called Transformation. I hope that you enjoy it. Thank you, Naomi. That's lovely. And Solve, thank you also. They're very just lovely comments. Very nice. I'm glad you're enjoying it. That's the main thing. And this is going to go on for a while because I've 3 more readings to do. So if you want to hang around, hang around. If you don't and you can't, don't worry. And you can always come back. Don't forget, all of these are recorded. The video will be available afterwards on the YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Mythical Ireland. Don't forget to subscribe. And also on the Facebook page. So this is this is a work of fiction, but it is based upon the myths and the monuments. And in part, this scene is, well, it follows on from something, but it is based. The inspiration for this would be The Dream of Angus Og by George William Russell. I'm going to turn off my heater. Just bear with me for 1 second. I want to turn off the heater. It's just getting a little bit warm here now. Oh, nearly lost my lights as well in the process. Just think of it as a winter scarf, Anthony. Just wrap it around your neck like that. Yes, I know there's more than a couple of people watching and probably like you to choke yourself with it, but there you go. Transformation. They squeezed in through the opening into the alcove. It was lined by huge slabs of unhewn stone on the left, right, and at the end. It was no more than 6 or 8 feet long. Finton's magic flame illuminated the scene. "Here, look," said the man. He pointed to the large stone on the right of the small chamber. "Behold." There, carved onto the face of the rock, was a swirling emblem of 3 interlocked spirals. Mark, I did mention that earlier. Definitely would love the time and the recording studio to. I definitely, beyond any doubt, Return to Segish needs to be an audiobook. So yeah, in time, absolutely would love that. There, carved onto the face of the rock, was a swirling emblem of 3 interlocked spirals. It looked like it had been carved into the rock using stone tools. The spirals did not have precise edges, but despite their apparent coarseness, they retained a raw beauty. The carvings might have been made by some entranced initiate, some enraptured spirit of the dim past. "What do they mean?" he asked. "Many things," said the man. "You see the way they are joined, so that no one spiral is seen to be separate from the rest." With his hands still cupped to nurture the flame, Finton placed his index finger close to the stone and moved it along the curved edge of the left-hand spiral. He could see that the spirals were separate, yet connected. "That is the family," said the man. "The family?" "Yes, there is the mother," he said, pointing to one spiral before moving to the others. "And there's the father, and there's the offspring, each represented by a spiral. And of these 3, the whole world is made." You can see that there's a sort of very slight influence of sort of Christianity in here, but I can assure you that that is sort of unintentional. But of course, one of the things that we might get around to doing much more comprehensive work on in the future are the many crossovers between the symbols and metaphors of pre-Christian myth and Christianity that followed. "And of these 3, the whole world is made, for without one or the other, the human family would not exist. That is why the spirals are joined." Finton followed one of the spirals with his finger held just slightly away from the surface of the stone. He wound his finger inwards with the spiral and found that it was in fact 2 spirals, one within the other. This puzzled him. "Don't be puzzled," said the man. "The twin spiral represents the journey of life, from birth to death to birth again. It is a symbol of the great expansion of mind and spirit on life's journey. Growth is followed by decay, but decay is vanquished by new growth. Carved here on this stone is the emblem of divine family and of transformation." What transformation is there? Transformation, for instance, of the boy to the man. Infant becomes adult. Innocence becomes knowledge. dark becomes light. The impossible becomes possible. And tonight, here in the exalted sanctuary of the Palace of the Dagda, the extraordinary power of transformation, exemplified by this little symbol drawn from nature, shall be manifested in a magnificent way. I hope you don't mind me saying it, but, Finton said, hesitating. Go on. Excuse me for saying it, but this doesn't seem much like a palace to me. And of course, if you've stood in the chamber of Newgrange, especially on the non-solstice days, it won't seem like much of a palace to you either. Because, it's made of big old stones and it's dark and damp and generally kind of cool, in a cold kind of way, not in a cool kind of way. The man frowned. He bowed his head slightly and closed his eyes. He took a very deep breath and then let out a long sigh. After a short time, he spoke. I am Dagda, and this is my palace. And of course, those words are from A.E.'s work, The Dream of Angus. The Dream of Angus Og. This is my palace. His voice seemed stronger now, and its sound resonated among the many stones within the cold hill. You are Dagda, Finton said with delight, forgetting his previous insult. Yes, I am Dagda, and this is my palace. Now run your finger around the spirals once more, and you will see transformation. Still cupping the flame in his hands, Finton extended the forefinger of his right hand and started following the movement of the spirals. As he did so, the symbols began to glow, as if some heat or light source was illuminating them from within the stone. They glowed orange at first, but then brightened to yellow. Finton, taken aback by this fantastic occurrence, stepped back from the stone and uncupped his hands. His magic flame disappeared, but it was no longer needed. The light from the spirals grew stronger. As it did, he noticed now that there was light emanating from somewhere to the right, out in the main vault. There was a narrow shaft of golden light piercing the darkness of the great chamber. It crept forward towards them. All the time the crypt was becoming brighter, and the boy could see the large slabs of the ceiling above. There was music. It was a soft melody that sounded like it was being played on an instrument wrought in some celestial place, a magical flute whose music echoed from the vaults of heaven. The beam of light in the chamber reached into the alcove. As it did, the light from the spirals grew tremendously. The glory of the day is upon us, said the Dagda. Now you will see this lowly cave transformed into a golden mansion. As he spoke, the great stones began to disappear, and again this is a tribute to A.E. The light in the chamber merged with the light from the spirals in a radiant flash of brilliance. The boulders appeared to melt away, and the floor disappeared from beneath them. There was a rush of air that seemed to blast through from somewhere outside. Finton was not afraid. He was exhilarated. He felt like he was in the presence of a tremendous energy, something eternal and pervading and overwhelmingly beautiful. In a moment, all the stones had disappeared, and the light grew in strength, so that he had to shield his eyes. As it faded again, he could see clouds around him. There was blue sky above, and far below, through gaps in the cloud, he could see the lush green earth. The stone vault was gone, and now they were floating somewhere beyond human imagination. Out towards the horizon, just above the clouds, was a dazzling sunrise. As he looked towards the sun, the boy felt greatly warmed. There was a tremendous bliss in his heart. He felt as if he had suddenly been bestowed with the love of all his ancestors, right down through the past to the earliest days of the earth. There was a resounding music. Trumpets blasted and a vast choir was singing, and the sound of great bells pealed through the air. There were rainbows and flashes of lightning. The Dagda spoke again. This time his voice boomed like thunders. From the cold womb of the lowly she, you have ventured on high to the Dagda's palace. You might not remember it, but you were here before. When? Before you were you, and before I was me. His great voice echoed through the high air. Before you were you? Yes, I am only Dagda as you might perhaps prefer to see me. If I appear like a man, you are more likely to look upon me as an equal, and less likely to fear me. So who are you really? Fintan asked, raising his voice so that he could be heard above the wind. Perhaps I am you. But I am not old and grey, said the boy. Nor am I, replied the Dagda. But this is the guise in which I am most familiar to you, and besides, there is no such thing as time in the Dagda's palace. Really? So you might not be old? Age is a concern for mortals. You count the passing of the days, and the settings of the sun, and the comings and goings of the moon. There is no time here, so I cannot say what my age is. You could say I am ageless. You could be very young. I think you could say I am ever young. No age or infirmity will ever come upon me. I shall know no ramshackle evening, nor shall there be a feeble or haggard Dagda at the darkening of the day. All this, despite the fact that people call me the father of the gods. What father stays youthful forever? You are one of the Tuatha De Danann. You are immortal. So it is said. Maybe you are immortal too. And how can you be sure I haven't lived on the earth like you, and counted my hours until the dimming of the day? And in the sad twilight hour, in the evening of life, perhaps I passed from one form to another within some cold and lonely vault of renewal, hidden away somewhere in the heart of a humble hill. Fintan wondered now if the Dagda had once been a man. He would have been some great magi or chieftain, no doubt. I am essence of father and son, said the Dagda. Just as father creates son, son blossoms and in turn becomes a father himself. Such is the way of life. A little time ago, you were in the high palace of the Dagda, where you were feasted and honoured and bestowed with many gifts before your journey into darkness. And I'm going to leave that there, because if I read too much of it, I'll just keep going and going and going and going. And anyway, if you want more, you can you can order a signed copy on the website. That's mythicalireland.com. Had to get that mention in. Is everybody still all right? Who else's birthday is it? Henry. Henry who? Henry's younger son, Tristan's 19th birthday. Well, a very happy birthday to Tristan. We have lots of birthdays happening over the days of the solstice among the viewers tonight, which is brilliant. Yes. Vishin Gohalan Erfad Gora Mila Mahagut, Naomi. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed that. Damn great story, says 7-7. Robin Rickman, sold. I want more. I hope you enjoyed. Garage, my birthday's on Wednesday. Now, hang on, there's a competition going on here for birthdays. A very happy birthday, Garage. There's no way that you're 19 now. You're not as young as Tristan. But a very happy birthday to you on Wednesday. Yeah, that's another, yes, also a very auspicious time of the year to have your birthday in conjunction with the rebirth of the sun. Fascinating, So the next reading, and Vicky Wallace-Southall says, my brother's birthday is today. Movanway says, my cousin's birthday is today. Wow, this is incredible. Seems that a lot of the Tua have solstice birthday connections. Madison, no, is the very simple answer. There is very little, if no evidence for the ceremonies, But I think the evidence is in the bones and in the myth. They brought the dead in there, as somebody else said earlier on, to see them restored to a new life in the other world, in the afterworld, I think. And somebody's niece's birthday today. Oh, Liz, a very happy birthday to Leon. I'm Brian and so is my wife. No, there aren't people telling lies about their birthdays. These are all genuine birthdays. Brendan, you're very welcome. I'm very, very glad to bring you all together. And it's so wonderful to have such a lovely group of people gathered around the virtual hearth. And so this is from a chapter called Aengus Og, and this is from Return to Segish, which is it's not really a novel. It's a mytho-poetic work, which I published earlier this year. I have read a couple of sections of it in different live streams. And this one I haven't read before. So, as I said, eventually you'll be able to piece them all together as an audiobook. Desiree, that's a fabulous idea. I'd love to do that. You need to recreate that tracing of the spire with your son Finn, and you might photograph the light tricks. Yeah, I'd love to do that. That's a brilliant idea. Catherine Woodruff, you're very welcome. Robin Rickman has to leave for a birthday. Hey, look, everybody's celebrating birthdays. Robin, we'll catch up with you on the replay. We might see you tomorrow for the Bowen talk on Zoom. Karen is saying he doesn't have his birthday in Solstice. It's in March. Well, mine is in March as well, as it happens. So there you go. Around the time of the spring equinox. Anyway, this is called Aengus Og. I hope you enjoy it. Actually, just one moment. Yeah. There's too much in that to read. Yeah. Because we'd be here all night. It is 9:15. We've been on for an hour and a quarter, but I know nobody's in a rush to get out. Aengus Og. In circles, the one who brandishes the fork of white hazel dances his way back towards the top of the hill, and the salmon run is in full flow beneath the growing dusk of morning. Somewhere in another world, there is a great movement. This is a binary system. There can be no breaking through of this world to that one without an equal and opposite breaking through to this one. In the growing light, there is a strange ritual. I see dancing, and I hear music. Hooded strangers, bedecked in bear furs, F-U-R-S, dance and swirl with fiery embers. There are characters in their midst who seem uncomfortable there. The hooded ones carry burning branches, swooshing and twirling them to a trance-inducing rhythm. The sparks and embers fly from the ends, creating a fiery show. The shadows moving in the centre of the din are two elders. They are feeling the heat and must move constantly in order to avoid being burned by the falling embers. I move closer, enthralled by the curious spectacle. The wooden branches glow red and yellow at the ends. I can feel the warmth, even from a distance. Pardon me. I dare not move any closer, for fear of being burned. The hooded figures are energetic in their movements, which seem to become more frenetic as the tempo of the music increases. The movement of the elders slows in pace. Soon, they join hands and embrace. Squatting onto the earth, they sit still under a fiery shower. They will surely burn. But as I watch, they meld into one grey shape, and beneath a torrent of sparks and cinders, they crumple and dwindle into a pile of ash. The hooded figures stop dancing and the music dies until there is just one sombre drum beat. One hooded stranger stoops to the cinder pile and reaches towards it. He picks something up. He holds it aloft. In the pale twilight of the coming dawn, he reveals it to the others. It is a bone, an ashen grey bone. A human bone. Startled, I slouch down, hoping not to be seen. But it is too late. The hooded figure runs towards me. I cannot see his face, but he paces quickly in my direction. I have nowhere to run. I crouch down in terror. "Here it is," he says loudly. "Here, take it." "I don't want it," I reply, terrified. I cover my face with my arms. I await the inevitable. Slumped on the ground, cowering beneath his looming form, I imagine at any moment I will be burned alive or meet some other horrible doom. "Here, take it," the voice says once more, but I ignore it, hoping that he will leave me alone. "Why are you afraid?" a young male voice says. I lower my arms from around my head and open my eyes. Standing before me is a boy, a slender blonde-haired boy with a smile on his face and a warm glow in his eyes. The hooded figures have disappeared. The burning embers are gone. All that remains other than the boy is a smoking pile of ashes in a large stone bowl. The ridge is soon crowned with golden light. The sun is rising. "Do you recognize me?" the boy says, staring lovingly into my eyes. He takes my hand, and I rise up from the ground onto my feet. I stare at him, and even as I do, I know that I recognize him. He speaks again, and as he does so, it moves me to tears. "Pause a while at Sheedenbroga, O weary wanderer of the year. Stoop low towards the Druid's dreams, for the things that make you kneel will elevate you beyond measure." As I hear those words, I weep. It is a weeping of great joy, tinged with a sadness, a mourning for lost days and wayward wandering. "I am Angus," he says, as he places his arms around me and embraces me. "I am Angus Og, the young son, the one who was conceived in the morning and born between that and the sunset of the same day. I know, my son, I know." And as I hug him, the tears flow like the stream of water that trickles over the rim of Segish, birthing the Boyne. "Did you pull the sword from the stone?" I ask him. "As surely as you went to the bottom of Muirhevna and retrieved the lava light from that mystery portal in the rocks of the seabed. As surely as you followed the Knowe downwards into the deepest parts of Segish to find the Milky Way on the back of a fish. As surely as you conversed with the lapdog on the shore of Inverculpa. As surely as you relieved us of all our burdens at Lew's bed on Ishnach. As surely as you brought the monster of your own shade to the Lech Ben to be dismembered. As surely as you have stood on the bridge at the ford, watching for the flickering silvery flash of the first salmon run of the season. As surely as you saw the crane bag emptied of its delights as the tide retreated at Trogballia. As surely as you have heard the wind whistle between the ribs of the Mata at the Black Pool. As surely as you have brought the light of the moon and the morning star out of Fiach's pool with your slender fork of white bright hazel. And that's borrowed from the previous Tuckmark Etain about Elkmar. Yes, I pulled the sword from the stone, but I had the help of a mighty ally in doing so. In fact, I had the help of many. I looked at him through tear-filled eyes. The sun spilled its light across the valley, and in a moment many things were revealed. "I had help from you," he said, pointing at me, "and about 1,000 others, people who were willing to go beyond the fright of night and venture into the deepest darkness of themselves. All salmon rushing upstream to the spawning pools of their first imaginations. We were standing in the clearing on the top of the ridge, and the treetops were painted in hues of golden orange and yellow, as if a sudden warmth had come into the world that was never felt before. It was a crowning moment, when lowly pilgrims of the grey hours were made kings and queens in the high air of a place so sacred that the spiraling worlds would open to each other here in a symphony of jubilation. Those who have mined gold and silver and diamonds in the deepest places are those who will be crowned here with the jewels of their own self discovery, said Angus, smiling broadly. They will be made kings and queens at Sheedenbroga. I have no wish to be a king, I said to him hesitantly. I did not wish to spoil the air of exultation. You shall be the king of your own heart, he said, placing his hand on my chest. And you shall be king of your own mind, he added, pointing to my head. What better kingdom to rule than your own heart and your own mind and your own soul? He spoke as one who had fished in many pools of the river of his own soul, one who had been washed out to sea dismembered and come back again, renewed with the incoming tide. Oh, I have been far beyond that, he said, and he turned towards the rising sun, and his face glowed like someone from the oldest age, as if he was the first human ever to witness the glory of dawn. I turned with him and faced the sun, and there was a feeling in the pit of my soul that grabbed me then, a feeling that such ecstatic moments were accessible to all human beings, if only they would go earnestly and bravely after that flickering light within the darkness of themselves. And I wondered if, somewhere in the world, those thousand others were witnessing their own brilliant dawn as the newly crowned monarchs of their own eternal souls. Would they come here? Would they come to the ridge? Or would they, lost in their own moments, proceed down lonely ways? Because one who has been in the shade of themselves does not know how to bring that shade to the surface in others. After the sunrise, would there come an eclipse? Doubt is such a human thing, and it comes even in rapture. Should we leave the ridge alone so that it would not become crowned with a thing of our own making, a vestibule to some other way? Leave the earth as it is, and leave us as we are. The earth will be the better for it, and we will be better for it. Give to the earth what is earth's, and give to man what is man's. Let us go back to the forests and the streams and the shaded uplands. Mata, we tore you apart at Lech Ben. We tore you apart so that a new world could be made. But it is a folly, because man did not make the world, and man did not make himself. Man cannot unmake the world without unmaking himself. What have we done except broken the monster only to remake another? We have heaped stone on stone and bone on bone. Should we dare to call this a triumph? You do what you do, says the boy, saturated with the colours of dawn, because remaking the monster is the only thing you know how to do. But why? Why do we remake it? Because that is the gold that you mine, the diamond from your deepest shafts and crevices, the will to make something better with your own monster nature. Nothing is so dark that a light cannot be made to shine on it. I thought about my own jewel, my own precious thing. It was no nugget of gold or shining diamond. It was a slender, Y-shaped twig, a piece of white hazel that had once been part of a tree growing over the sacred pool at Rosnaree. The hazel that had grown from a blood-red canoe, dropped at the pool's edge by some sage of the ancient world. In the first dawn of its breaking, it sundered wonderfully, rooting itself in the deepest world of itself, while its soul sung to the stars. As I grasped it in the flourishing dawn on the golden green ridge, I knew it to be to be more precious than any coloured stone retrieved from the bosom of the earth. It was, to my mind, a living, breathing thing, an animate object capable of communicating things which had never been uttered using spoken languages or written in words. The starry son of the hazel was both warrior and bard, the one who stood waist high in the water of Lin Feach, waiting for either battle or poetry. He was equally ready for either, but in any event, he was to find that the hazel branch was a more powerful weapon than any sword in the right hands. And that there is the chapter called Angus Og from Return to Sagish. Hope you enjoyed that. Whew. There you go, Brendan. I found the strength of the white hazel more powerful than I had expected. It wanted to become a living thing in my hand. The water diviner had me enthralled. Brilliant stuff. And so I propose to close out with just one more reading, and it's not my own writing this time. And I hope that you enjoy it. It is from a short reading from Benedictus, a Book of Blessings, by the late great John O'Donoghue, author of Anam Cara and so many other beautiful works. Thank you, Vicky. I'm glad you enjoyed that. And Patricia, thanks indeed. Hunting Hills. Yeah. Thank you all. Yes, indeed. Yeah. I find it very difficult to read a lot of Return to Segish without kind of. It's an emotional thing, you know. I can't read the end of it, and that's not spoiling it. I can't read the last couple of pages. I have yet to read the last couple of pages without breaking down. Just put it that way. Just evokes such a huge emotion. Some lovely comments. Thanks. Yeah, I'm humbled and moved. This poem is called "At the End of the Year," and of course, under the modern calendar, we celebrate that on the 31st of December as New Year's Eve. But of course, in prehistory, this is New Year's Eve, isn't it? You know, they say that Samhain is the New Year. I don't know. I'm just not sure. This is the time when the year definitely turns. You know. Thank you, Terry Lynn, and yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Laura. That's yeah. Even as the writer, I find that yeah, I know. This is called "At the End of the Year." The particular mind of the ocean, filling the coastlines longing with such brief harvest of elegant vanishing waves, is like the mind of time opening the shapes of days. As this year draws to its end, we give thanks for the gifts it brought, and how they became inlaid within, where neither time nor tide can touch them. The days when the veil lifted, and the soul could see delight, when a quiver caressed the heart in the sheer exuberance of being here. Surprises that came awake in forgotten corners of old fields, where expectations seemed to have quenched. The slow brooding times when all was awkward and the wave in the mind pierced every sore with salt. The darkened days that stopped the confidence of the dawn. Days when beloved faces shone brighter with light from beyond themselves. And from the granite of some secret sorrow, a stream of buried tears loosened. We bless this year for all we learned, for all we loved and lost, and for the quiet way it brought us nearer to our invisible destination. And that is At the End of the Year from Benedictus by John O'Donoghue, a book of blessings. That's it for tonight's episode, folks. Some science there, and some mythology, and some mysticism, and some fiction, and some romance. And I hope you enjoyed it all. Don't forget that there are 2 more live streams from Newgrange in the morning on the official day of Solstice. 8:45 a.m. Irish time. That's 3:45 a.m. if you're on the east coast of the States. I know it's kind of awkward, but get up for an hour and go back to bed and get yourself some extra sleep then later in the day. That is, what did I say? That is 1:45 a.m. if you're in San Francisco or Seattle on the Pacific coast. Tomorrow evening, I will be giving my talk about Bowen and Newgrange on Zoom in conjunction with Louth Library Service. The registration link to that is on the Mythical Ireland Facebook page, and it's on the Instagram page as well in the bio, in the biography, in the bio, as they say. I'm not sure if you can still register for it. If you had registered, you should have received a link by email today. If you haven't received that link, check your spam folder just in case it's gone in there. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow evening. Well, tomorrow morning we'll all be watching. I suppose we'll all be watching the live stream. I'll see you again, hopefully a lot of you tomorrow evening for the Bowen talk. And then again on Wednesday morning, we have the final of the 3 live streams from Newgrange. And that'll be it then until Christmas, I think. I wasn't specifically planning anything, but I will be back on Monday. Pardon me, on Monday evening next with our next episode of Live Irish Myths. Don't forget, on the 5th of January, we have Live Irish Myths in conversation with Jenny Butler. I'm looking forward to that. So take it easy. Have a great winter solstice if you're in the northern hemisphere. If you're in the southern hemisphere, have a great summer solstice. The year is about to turn. And as John O'Donoghue implores us to, let us be thankful for what has been, and let us be grateful for what is to come. And to hope that each and every one of you has a lovely, happy, peaceful, enjoyable solstice and Christmas season. And we'll see you soon. Banachtaí an Grienstad. Thank you, Salve. Patricia McAteer. Good night, Patricia. And as always, all that remains for me to say is Slán go fóill. Bye for now. Ikawa. Good night or good day for those of you still in daytime. Kolosov, sound sleep when you do go there. And the most important one, of course, Tog go bugé. Take it easy. Take care, everyone. All the best. Good night.